I'm leading you somewhere, right? Here's the question. The past is in the past, right? Like, can't do anything about it now. Yeah, we want to confirm that. But because you're here, that I'm busting some myths this month. And listen, we have so much more power to affect our past than we give ourselves credit for, than we even realize. And here's the thing. You probably already know that your past doesn't stay in the past, right? Like, it affects your present, how you show up, how you react, how you make sense of what's going on in your life, your business, certainly your relationships. And while I am all about consciously creating our future and making that the focus, not spending all of our time rehashing the past, right? Wouldn't it be great if we could change the past in order to more easily get to the future that we really desire? Yeah, well, it turns out we can, my friends. And today's guest is going to bust this unchangeable past myth right open with us. This is a liberating and revolutionary conversation, and I am so freaking excited to have it with you. Welcome to another Catalyst Conversation for a Relationship Revolution. Here, we challenge the unquestioned assumptions that have been keeping you stuck in love, life, and leadership. Here, we reveal the truth that no one has taught you and activate new ways of leading relationships consciously, courageously, differently, and dare I say better, so that you can have the kind of relationships, the kind of life that most people only dream of. I'm so glad that you are here. Ready? Let's get into it. This month, if you've been following, we're cracking open some of the biggest myths that we have inherited, that we have assumed and integrated into our nervous system about love, about relationships, about what is and is not possible for us and our lives. And so much of what keeps people stuck in our relationship patterns or in our business and careers, in our leadership, is not a lack of effort or even a lack of self-awareness or a lack of love. It is a set of stories and beliefs that we have been handed and never questioned, never given the tools to deal with in a more powerful way. And one of the most predominant stories is that this is just the way things are. This is just the way he is or she is or I am. This is what happened and I can't change that. And that myth, that the past is in the past, it's done and cannot be changed, is the one that is going to get cracked open for you today, the one that really costs us so much more than we might be realizing. And I cannot wait for you to hear what our amazing guest has to say about it. But before I introduce you to her, I'm going to take a moment to introduce you to me. For those of you who may be new or this is your first time listening, my name is Dr. Jeni Wallig. I am an award-winning relationship mentor, speaker, author, intuitive guide, and I am a relationship revolutionary. My mission is to revolutionize how we think about and go about our relationships and to redefine what it means to love so that we may all experience the kind of power and possibilities that our relationships truly have to offer us. And nothing, truly nothing, impacts the quality of our lives more than the quality of our relationships, which you'll hear me say includes our relationship with ourselves. The truth is, we are in relationships everywhere and all the time, in every corner of our lives. They are the infrastructure upon which we build everything else. But most of us have never learned how to do relationships well, let alone how to lead them consciously and relationally, especially when things get hard or they've been painful. Much of what we have learned not only doesn't work for us, it's part of what's keeping us stuck and happy. So the revolution that I'm all about is a great global healing through what it really means to love. It's a return from separation into wholeness, into integration. It's a paradigm shift in the way humanity relates, loves, and leads, starting at our most intimate levels. And in these catalyst conversations, my goal isn't just to give you insight, it is to wake something up within you, love, so that you may be part of this revolution too. Now, my guest today is someone who has built her entire body of work around a truth that most people are not yet willing to believe, or find it very hard to believe, that the past is not as fixed as we think it is. And that when we do something about it, about the way we're wired from our past, we open up everything in our lives. Nikko Anna Jean is a CEO and co-founder of Heartshine Revolution, a movement that brings trauma-informed healing with conscious creation. She's a #1 Amazon best-selling author and creator of the Heartshine EFT method and the Inner Child Revolution program. I knew I would connect with her. I mean, we're both revolutionaries, right? So her work, my friends, sits at this intersection, again, which I love. And if you've been following me, you know this is my jam. It's the intersection of the nervous system, our subconscious, and the lived experience of our patterns that have been formed long before we had the words for them. Nikko has developed a method that doesn't just help you understand those patterns, it helps you actually change them. Nikko, my friend, welcome to Catalyst Conversations for Relationship Revolution.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that introduction, and I'm so happy to be here. I think we definitely are birds of a feather.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes. So I want to start this conversation by jumping right into this. Most people believe that our past is in the past, right? Like time is linear. We can't go back and actually change things. It's already happened. What are we supposed to freaking do about it? Except for maybe process it and accept it and adapt and move forward. But we're staking a claim in the idea, in the truth that actually we can change the past, or at least what is important about the past. Like, can you go into why that's true, or like how that could possibly be?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because, there's so many levels there, but I can just jump into like where I started with this work. Was using EFT tapping to regulate my nervous system. That was the beginning for me.
One second. If you're not familiar with EFT tapping, could you tell people what that is?
Yeah, EFT tapping, it stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. It's a very simple, straightforward self-help, self-healing modality that some people consider it to be sort of like emotional acupuncture. And you're going to be tapping on certain acupressure points on your body while you're saying phrases. And so it's a very easy, simple self-help healing modality. Most people come into it just to relieve stress. That's most, broad application is lowering stress and anxiety. But it actually has much more applications into, dealing with trauma and actually rewiring limiting beliefs. So it can go way beyond just stress relief.
Yeah. Amazing. And it is such a powerful methodology. And I know you integrate it into the work that you do now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Yes. I started out just, being a life coach, and started using tapping for myself, and then had a profound healing because I was diagnosed with a severe panic disorder. I had panic attacks.
Oh, wow.
At the time, I didn't know I had childhood trauma. Didn't know I had CPTSD. I thought that was normal to feel that way, but tapping helped me overcome it. And it was really quickly, like it didn't take a long time. It was like a really quick, not overnight, but just a few weeks of using tapping.
Amazing.
So I started using it with my clients, and that's where it began as far as using tapping in coaching.
Yeah, so good.
But where I think, as far as understanding how the past can change, after I'd been using tapping for a while, and then I started going through my own healing process, I started working with a therapist, and he is, a pretty big YouTuber on childhood trauma. And he specializes in reparenting the inner child. And I'd never heard of reparenting. I'm like, what is this reparenting? I mean, I heard of the inner child. Sure. Inner child. But I did not know. I didn't know why I was going to be getting into this with him. I have narcissistic trauma and I really needed some help. So we started working together. And I was just blown away at the transformational dialogue of reparenting the inner child. I started using tapping with my own inner child work to help keep my nervous system regulated while I was dialoguing with inner child parts that were just showing up and blowing my mind, with all kinds of emotions and things that I wasn't tuned into. What I discovered, because this is a really long story and I'm trying to not make it too long, what I discovered as I did my own work and I started applying this with clients is that as we, work in traumatic memories, when we work with clients using EFT, I discovered that we would work with a memory. And like you said, you can process a memory. Sure, that's you're fine. That's great. That's one step. The nervous system can release the charge around the memory. But what can happen is then you can actually change the memory inside the session by reparenting your own inner child as you, the adult, coming into the memory and changing what happened. Now, that doesn't mean you lose access to the memory. You still remember the original memory, but it changes because the experience of receiving what you didn't get in the past changes your nervous system.
Yeah.
And so a lot of these New Thought authors like Neville Goddard, who I'm deeply into, talk about things like revision and changing the past, but they didn't really have the language of neuroscience like we do now. So now we can understand how the nervous system works, but we can also understand through quantum physics that as viewed, so appears, meaning what we're observing from the present moment is how the past is actually being experienced.
Yes.
Which is pretty deep.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right, Nikko. There are so many layers to this, and we can't even get into all of them. There's just not enough time. I'm sure you and I could geek out about this for a really long time, but okay. There's so many things places my brain wants to go for this. I want to highlight something first for our listeners. Y'all, we think of the past on a timeline as something that objectively happened. But when we look at the human experience, the past exists only in our memories. Our experience of the past, our truth of the past exists in our nervous system, right? And what I'm hearing you say, Nikko, is, and this is so huge and liberating, is that we have the power to change our memory of the past, to change the neural connections that we have when remembering the past, which doesn't mean that we're brainwashing ourselves to forget that the past didn't happen the way that it did in our original lived experience, but we are recoloring that memory.
It's literally, exactly. I mean, if you want an example, I could just make up an example based on all the clients I've ever worked. It's not a real client, but I can make up an example that, say, and this is something kind of, it doesn't have to be a big T trauma memory. Okay. Although it can, but something as simple as a 5-year-old is sitting in school and, is coloring, and the teacher comes along and says, "You're not doing that right," and is critical. And then the child in that moment is experiencing whatever shame or whatever they're experiencing. And that creates a pattern in the field, right? It creates an identity. It creates a belief. Because in that moment, children make up a story about what it means. I must be bad. I must be wrong. There must be something wrong with me. whatever we just, that's what we do as children, that we can't process what just happened. So we just make up a story. So something as simple as that is we can go into that memory. So the adult self, the present moment self, can literally enter in the moment that happened and say, you know what, little Nikko, that teacher was wrong.
Yeah.
That was absolutely not okay what she just did. That's not okay. You're fine. Your coloring is great. And give the child what they actually needed, was whatever that was, reassurance.
Right.
And then that is a level of change, right? But then we can actually go farther. Like, we can actually take it farther. Like, what should have happened instead? We can actually create a different scenario. I usually have my clients ask the inner child, well, what do you want?
Yeah.
And it's amazing how their brain will just create something like, I want to go outside and play on the playground. I want to do so you can create whole new memories that create different experiences in which, instead of being criticized, I was supported. I was held in a space of unconditional love, or whatever it is. And that does change the way we feel about ourselves. It changes our identity.
Yes. And that's the whole point, right? We're not trying to just deny our past. We are trying to liberate ourselves in the present so that we can be the leader of our lives that we desire to be, so we can feel better about ourselves, about our relationships, and we no longer have to carry those wounds or that shame or those pieces of identity that aren't aligned with our truth and our power. And that, that opens up so much space.
Yeah, because a person, like, say, for instance, that fake client probably came to the session stuck around something in the present moment that's pretty simple.
Oh, yeah.
Like I'm having trouble, just hitting publish on my website. Right. Well, and then we find out, when we really look at it, that it goes back to that event where she was criticized in that moment, so that's how it's actually, like, helpful in the present moment, is like, I can't freaking publish my website because of what happened in 5th grade, because I'm in a shame spiral and I'm terrified I'm going to be criticized.
And this shows up all the time in relationships, right? Like, I can see how just your example could show up in a couple where receiving any kind of feedback, corrective feedback about how I would like my partner to do things better, or how my partner wants me to do things differently that would feel more loving to them, and hearing or receiving that as criticism and feeling shame about it, and then reacting defensively to it because that story is operating.
Yeah.
And the thing about, like, these stories is they're not often conscious, right? They're like scripts, they're reactive, quick brain associations that are running the show before we're even really aware of it.
Yeah. I use that phrase a lot. The inner child's running the show.
Yeah.
Like that's such a good example. Like, my clients, like, having relationship issues, or with the partner, or whoever it is. And I explain, it's like, well, your inner child has just completely taken over this interaction, and probably theirs too. And now you've got two inner children bumping up against each other. And, like, the whole idea with the inner child work is that you have to get that part separated out first. You have to get the subject object shift, or you have to see the child instead of be the child. And that's why a lot of my clients, I tell them, have a conversation with your inner child before you have a difficult conversation that's meant for adults. And tell them, look, you don't need to be a part of this. I can handle these adult boundaries. I can handle, all this conversation. In this conversation, although it feels similar to XYZ in the past, it's not the same, right? We're not powerless. We have agency. Or so-and-so is not mom, or so-and-so is not dad, or so-and-so is not your brother. Like, and we have to connect for the inner child why it feels the same. It makes sense. We have to validate and say, it makes sense you be freaking out based on that. So that's the power of that transformational conversation.
Yeah. And what I love about this is that we're not just talking about becoming more aware of when our inner child shows up. And like, because I think, on the conscious level, we can see like, oh yeah, I have this thing, I have this inner child that comes up, or this trauma or this experience from my past that I know shows up and affects me. It's like just knowing that doesn't change the past, doesn't change our relationship with it, doesn't change the neural structure of that memory. It's in the relationship that we develop with that story, with that inner child, with that memory, that actually creates the change, right?
Yeah, right. Like it creates new neural pathways. And that, I mean, that's why EFT tapping, it's somatic. So
Mm-hmm.
it processes on the somatic level. So that's part of it. Also, yes, those continual conversations and then the new experiences that you're having,
Yeah.
those create the new neural pathways. Of, well, maybe this isn't so scary. Maybe it is safe to have needs. Maybe these conversations are safe, and I can tell my partner that these are my needs, and then that builds trust,
Mm-hmm.
But it does take time. You're right. It's not an overnight fix. It's
Yeah.
definitely not.
Yeah. And it requires the willingness to be in relationship with yourself and do that reparenting work, which brings me to another question. Can you share more about like what it means to reparent our inner child? Because that's different than just talking to them. Like, what does it mean to reparent your inner child?
It is different. In fact, it's funny because I say this is like most of my clients are their parents, and many
Mhm.
of them have younger children. They're great parents, like they've read all the books and like they're really dedicated. But then they come face to face with their own inner child, and they don't know what to do. And this is what happens is like, I'm sure we've internalized our own parents' behaviors. We've
Oh, yeah.
or whatever, our family system, we've internalized so much. And so it's very typical that we start perceiving our own inner child in a very different way than we do actual children. But
Mhm.
the truth is, it's no different than any other relationship.
Yes.
So there is a difference in the way we talk to our inner child in reparenting, because there's a very specific process that I teach in reparenting that is actually the best way. It's the best way to have any conversation, honestly.
Oh,
Would
yeah.
you Do you want to know the steps?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Give it to the all of us.
Okay. Yes. Let's talk about the steps. So the first thing we do is we just validate. We just validate. We say, I see that you're feeling upset. I noticed that you're feeling upset
Mhm.
about, what so and so said, your partner or whatever.
Mhm.
And I totally get that. And I'm, you know what? I'm here for you. So we just start with validation. We're not,
Yep.
most people try to jump right into, yeah, but, and we go straight to fixing
Mhm.
or trying to explain, the
Mhm.
adult logic is, well, but they don't mean it and they love you and this and that. And
Which is the opposite of validating. It's actually quite invalidating of our experience.
it really is.
Mhm.
And that's
Mhm.
adult logic, but children need to be witnessed around
Mhm.
what they've experienced.
Well,
So
and
validation.
honestly, adults do too. We just forget, we just haven't gotten enough of it that we allow ourselves to really name that we absolutely need that witnessing. But to your
Yeah.
point, yes, like the adult logic is this is going to help out my child, my inner child, myself feel better, to explain or reassure or justify another adult's or another person's behavior. But that's not what any of us need at any stage of our life. First, that validation, game changing.
Yeah, just the space to have the feelings. Just,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
your feelings are valid. That's like the first step, offering unconditional support and love. The second step is accountability. And this is the part that most people can get pretty uncomfortable with, is that we have to be willing as the adult to hold others accountable. Now, this, people get confused about this. This does not mean you're going to go to your parent and tell them and be confrontational and tell them you did something wrong. No, this is an internal conversation.
Yeah.
So it's something like, you know what? Just like in the example with the memory, like, mom never should have done that. She never should have treated you with that. Is not okay that she did that. I'm not okay with it. And we have to be comfortable with maybe even feeling some anger. Like that's actually normal. We should feel anger around injustices, boundary crossings, invalidation, whatever it is. So holding whoever needs to be held accountable to the intersection. Yes, we hold them accountable. And then once we do that and let the child have their feelings around that, because sometimes they're not okay with it too, right? That's uncomfortable for them. Then we ask, what do you need to feel safe right now? What do you need from me? What do you need from me? Like, that's the most important question.
Beautiful.
Sometimes they know, sometimes they don't, but it's the question that's really powerful.
Yes.
Right? And that it's actually really simple, and then it's like, okay, yes, I can do that for you. Or I am committed to trying to do that. Like, even if sometimes it's not that reasonable, but I'm committed to being there for you. I'm committed to whatever I can do to earn your trust. It's about earning the trust of that inner child part.
Yeah. Was that step 4? I felt like that was step 3.
I may have not named a step.
Okay. I was like, just making sure I'm not like.
Yeah. No. So that, I mean, like I said, that's a very simplified version of it. There's obviously, it can get more complex, like in a coaching session, but
of course,
when talking to your own inner child, it's actually pretty simple. That's pretty simple.
Yeah. And, for those of you who are listening, I hope that you wrote this down, because what Nikko just shared is really gold. I mean, it's a simple yet profoundly transformational internal process that all you need is you to be able to do, and the courage and the willingness to be in that parent present self, like wise adult energy. And what I think is, I really want to like pull out from what you said, Nikko, is our inner children are not unlike any other child that we may parent. They need the same things. And you touched on this, but this I think is really important too, that we internalize the way that our parents treated us or parented us. And so we're often parenting or trying to interact with our inner children the way that our parents interacted with ourselves as a child, I mean, right? And so, if you had a parent who was really critical or short with you, or, was very invalidating and dismissive of your feelings, be conscious of that, because you may be responding to your inner world in that same way when feelings come up, when hurts come up, when the past shows up in your present. And that's an invitation for you to heal that. It's an invitation for you to reparent yourself, right? You are becoming the parent that you didn't have in that moment. Even if the memory is with someone who wasn't your parent, you get to be not exactly your mom and dad, because you are you. You get to be older, wiser version of you, which I think our inner children trust even more than any other person, because every other person lets us down in some way. But we ourselves have so much power to show up for ourselves. And I hope that you're like picking up, those of you who are listening, on how profoundly impactful this is in terms of how we're relating to others. Because when we can stay anchored in ourselves, in the truth of us, in our power, in our adult selves, and not have our inner children running the show, driving the bus, steering the boat, right? However you want to say it, that you're going to have a lot more success in getting the outcomes that you want in across the board in your life, because children are not the best drivers, right? Like we wouldn't trust a child to drive a car. We wouldn't trust a 7-year-old to run our business. We wouldn't trust a teenager to manage our marriage, right? So that this is why like bringing consciousness to this and changing our relationship with those experience that created that wiring that is operating beneath the surface is so revolutionary, so life-changing.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because you would think that like that might be easy, because you would think that child doesn't actually want to do those jobs. But the truth is, most of the time I've observed that that's the only thing that's kept them safe their whole life. And they're not just going to let go of the keys just because you say so. You know, that's not usually going to happen. And so that is why we have to build rapport and trust and prove to our inner children, I am going to show up for you. I actually can handle this. In fact, I see a lot, and this is something that's really sneaky, is the inner child can show up and sound like an adult a lot of times. They can sound very, because they had to basically, a lot of them had to parent themselves. They were parentified. And so they really are used to being an adult. They can sound like an adult, and they can trick you and make things sound logical. This and this and that. And then this is called the colluding adult. Like, you're right. Yeah, I probably shouldn't do that. I'm not really good at that. It's safer to not do this. So it can be really tricky, which is why it's really good to have someone who knows what they're doing to help you navigate a little when you're starting down this road.
Oh no, my internet freaked out for a second, but I think we're back. Okay, yeah, having that support, having that mirror so that you can start to see the things that are too close to you, that are in clever disguise, is so important, so helpful. But let's say that somebody doesn't have a support person. Are there any clues as to how to be able to tell the difference between an inner child that seems like an adult and like isn't? How do we know? Is there a way?
I mean, I think that once you start to connect with your inner child, and you can feel the difference between you and them. Like, I think it starts there, is